Hello, everybody. First, I wanted to say thank you to all our servicemen and women who have served our country, and thinking of all those who lost their lives during the wars, serving our country to make us free. Um, we are a free country, and it is May 31st, 2021. Now, this is to all my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and future generations to come, and all who want to listen and who are interested in genealogy. I'm going to talk about my great-grandmother and how she came from Wales to the U.S. Um, she her father wanted a better life for their family. So her father was David Humphreys, and her mother was Elizabeth Ellis Humphreys. And he decided to come over to the U.S. They evidently, never heard, I'm sure they knew somebody over here, because he came from Wales over to Reimer, Ohio, where there was a stone quarry, and he worked in a stone quarry for a couple of years until he had enough money saved to bring his family over. I'm sure he sent money over to them because at that time everybody was really poor. Now a lot of the families took in people to make extra money. Some, and the places weren't very big, but a lot of times they had maybe 6, 7 extra people in their little houses or little apartments. 2 years ago, my great niece and my sister and I went over to Wales to walk on the same path that my great grandmother used to walk. She was born, it says she was born in, she always talked about Abergavenny. That's about 1 8/10 miles from Corus, where we stayed when we went. But her birthplace was actually Llanwryn, Montgomeryshire, Wales, and that's all in the same district. It's all right there. So, but her father worked in the slate mines in Corus, and I do have a picture of that, and I'll show you in a minute, and a picture of where my sister and I and my great niece stayed. It was like a long, kind of like a condo building, only it was very, very old, and the floors were very cold. There, everything is slate, and let me tell you, my feet were cold. My feet were cold, especially in the evening when we were in our little apartment. But we survived, and it was very nice, and it was fun. And Corus was an adorable little village. So if you ever get a chance on the internet, just look up Corus, Wales, and you can see what it was. When my great-great-grandfather came over, he came on a ship, which probably, and this is one of the pictures of a ship that he could have possibly been on. This is what, and I want to have this picture blown up and put it on my wall. I think it's really a pretty picture. This would be treacherous when you were coming over and seasick and everything. But when he went over to bring back my great-grandmother and her mother, they had a 2-year-old daughter who passed away. Her name was Elizabeth, who passed away and is buried there around Corus someplace. When we were there was a cemetery up on the mountain, and the one lady told us, she said there was a lot of babies buried there, and we were going to go up there a couple days before we left and see if we could find a plaque where the names were or anything. But it was very, very wet, and there was really not any path to get up there, so we did not go up there. But we kind of figured she might have been buried up there. But when my great-grandmother Jenny and her mother and father came back over, Jenny remembered my great-great-grandmother, she remembered how sick a lot of people were on the ship. Now, she did not get seasick, nor her mother. And so they were taking care of people down underneath who were seasick and helping them. I'm sure it was very disastrous, you know, on the ship. But anyhow, they got over here and got to Ellis Island, and she's registered at Ellis Island under Jenny. And so then they came to Reimer and Gomer. Gomer was the town, little town that they settled in finally, and that's where she met Daniel, her husband, and they lived there for years. So, but it was interesting, you know, just how they came over and all the hardships they had. And back then, people were poor. I mean, you know, they didn't make much money, and I'm sure her father didn't make much money over here, but probably more than he made over in Wales. And I wanted to show you a picture of where we stayed. This was it was called One Park Terrace. This is where we stayed when we were in Wales. It was like a little long apartment building. Only, I mean, it was, and here's a row of them up the hill. I had to walk up the hill. So, but it was very nice, and had a fireplace, and it did have a heater on the wall, but we couldn't get the wood to burn that was in there. But I wanted to show you then. We walked then from Corris, which was 1 8/10 miles, to Abercloughney, where my great-grandmother always talked about. And here is the sign when we got there. My sister and I, that's the sign of Abercloughney. And it's funny, it was a beautiful walk. Wales is beautiful. Green because it's chilly, and everything's grass and sheep. And it was just beautiful. And then I don't know if you can see this either, right here is where, if you see that black hole, that is where my great-great-grandfather mined slate. And to this day, they don't mine slate up there anymore, but there was a slate sales place down the hill, and they would bring in slate from someplace else, but they also would go up on that mountain still and get pieces of slate. It's all pieces of slate on the outside. So they still just used that, but they didn't mine in there. They didn't mine in there anymore. But it would be, I would think, very scary to go in there and mine. But we had a wonderful trip to Wales, and I would go back, but we went from Columbus, Ohio to Canada, then flew to Ireland, and then over to Liverpool, and then we took a train down to Machylwith, which was about 7 miles from Corris, and then you take a bus. There's a bus runs every 30 minutes to an hour back and forth from Machylwith to Abercloughney. And but another interesting thing I saw on the internet is Abercloughney, there's not much there anymore, and it's for sale. The whole little village, which doesn't have much, and they said several acres, a lot of acres, they didn't say how many, for $1,150,000. So if anybody's interested, you know, they said it's been on the market for 2 or 3 years. So it's not a big seller. So, but there's a couple houses there, and this is the only apartment place left in Abercloughney. And then there's 2 houses down the hill, and there's a little church that's abandoned, and you know, it's old. So, and probably they'd throw a few sheep in if you wanted to too. Yeah. And we will add close-up pictures in the book to the video so you can see. But that's kind of the story on my great-grandmother, Jenny, and also one note here, they always called her Ma, and I think that her children called her Ma, and also my great-grandfather, they always called him Pa. So when we were growing up, we called them Ma and Pa. We didn't call them great-grandma Jenny or anything. We called them Ma and Pa. And so anyhow, it was, and when she passed away, my sisters and I sang at her funeral in 1958. So I think we'll wrap this up, and you can look at the pictures that CJ's going to put on. Thank you. One more thing I wanted to tell you about this book. It's on Wales, on our trip to Wales, and my great niece Heidi had this all made with all the pictures that we took and she took, and it's a wonderful book. And at the end, I thought it was so nice. She put my sister and I as we're walking down the way to Corus. So thank you.